And greetings, it's Dr. Brenda. Welcome to our workshop on building your timeline to financial independence. Couple of notes before we start. This is the recording of the presentation only. I do that for several reasons. One is because when you join me live, I want you to have complete confidentiality. Know that you can talk about your personal finances, and that's not going to be out there on the internet for everyone to hear and to watch. Another reason is because I do travel. I am working online and sometimes I don't have the best technology. So this way I get rid of the glitches. And then finally, I want you to be able to streamline your focus, not be distracted by the conversation, and be able to get to the information as fast as you can. Are you ready? Are you ready? I hope you are excited about building your timeline to financial independence. Let's start taking a deep breath. I'm going to lay out a lot of information for you today. My goal in all of this is to simplify, and that is a big challenge. We're talking about, financial programs and terminology that you may or may not be familiar with. So take a deep breath, whatever you do today. Oh, and this PDF, it's available to you. So download it, write in it, do what you need to do. You're going to have all this information, including the active links, but do something today that your future self will thank you for. That's why you're here in this workshop, because whatever you learn, you can go back and pick up the pieces later. Whatever you learn today is about making your future self healthier, happier, wealthier. Okay, you ready for this? Let's get started. Ah, what about the basics? All right, let's throw out a couple of things just to get your brain moving here. Let's clear off the cobwebs. I talk a lot about financial independence because we know what the number is. I can take 25 times your estimated annual expenses saved, and boom, I've got a number. I know the number for financial security, have enough funds saved up for at least 1 year. But there's this wiggle room, as we talked about in the last workshop, called financial freedom, financial independence light, and that is very much up to you as to how comfortable you are. You've got enough funds to take some risks. You've mastered your money. You're intent on pursuing your dreams. You are resourceful. Maybe you can, if this is your goal, quit the workplace before you hit that financial independence piece. So that is a reminder that we're talking about the big lift here, financial independence, because I can put a number to it, but your real goal may be that lighter lift, financial freedom. You don't want to have to sacrifice so much for something in the future. You want to be able to start living your life now, right? Okay, so there's a little reminder. I'm going to focus on retirement funds because they are tax favored, and in the most of you here, we're talking about fair timeline, usually 10 years plus. So you want your money in a tax favored retirement, most of it. There's the emergency fund. You've got taxable savings and investments. Your dream fund is going to be in there quite likely. So you've got all of these funds. It's not difficult for me to talk about emergency savings or taxable savings and investments because you're going to put your money, you're going to get taxed on it, boom, end of picture. Retirement, we have all of these rules here in the United States. When can you get your money? How much can you put in? So it's much more complex. So that's partly why we're going to focus on the retirement bit. I'm also going to mention, as we go into our case scenarios, income streams. You got your paycheck. That is probably your big income stream. It may be your only income stream. So one of the things we're going to talk about is how do you build different streams of income that are coming in that will get you between maybe the time that you leave the workplace for good and the time when you can start withdrawing your retirement fund. So that's another term that we're going to cover a little bit today. So let's go with the beginning. You got to put money in to get money out, right? Especially your retirement. So let's talk about putting the money in. There are really two types of plans. There is the individual retirement account, the IRA. That is something that you manage on your own. Then most of you probably, if you're working for a company, you have your own company plan. It's a 401k. If it's a nonprofit, it's a 403b, education, government, 457. There may be another, this all pertains to IRS tax codes, by the way. So you might have another number. You typically can contribute a whole lot more to that company plan than you can with an IRA. It's great to have both, and we'll talk about loading up your company plan, because you can and should, once you leave, move that into an IRA. But how much can you contribute? You can, if you're under 50, you can put $6,000 into an IRA. Can be, you put it all into the Roth, you can put it all into a traditional. I'll get to those terms in a bit, hang on. You can do a combination. $7,000 if you're 50 or above. This is phased out at higher income. So if you have and that changes every year. All of this changes. This is 2022. Usually the feds announce this late October, sometime in November. They'll give us the new numbers for 2023 because inflation has risen so dramatically. And these are tied to inflation. The amount you can contribute, expected to go up substantially in 2023. Now, company plan. This is a huge place for you to invest. $20,500 if you're under 50. There's a catch-up amount. If you're over 50, you can put in as much as $27,000. So that's huge. That's how much you can contribute. And you'll get to a point in your life where maybe your goal is to max out those contributions. It's a great goal. Okay, so I talked a little bit about Roth and the traditional. These are all your individual retirement accounts. You're handling them yourself. The difference is the taxes. In the Roth IRA, you're going to pay your taxes on the amount you put in now. So if I'm contributing $6,000, I've already paid taxes on that $6,000. But now gross tax free, when I withdraw it, let's say I withdraw it 30 years later, 20 years later, I'm done paying taxes. All of that money has accumulated. I never have to pay taxes on it again. So you're paying your taxes now. The traditional IRA, I'm putting in $6,000, but it's all, I did not pay my taxes on it. So it comes off of your salary. It doesn't get taxed. It grows tax-free, but now when you're withdrawing 20 years later, now you're paying the taxes. You can and should have monies in both accounts. I am in love with the Roth IRA because my taxes are paid for. I don't know what's going to happen when I want to withdraw it in 10, 15, 20 years. All I know is my taxes are done. I'm done paying. The traditional IRA, will tax rates go up? What's going to happen with the rest of my income? I don't know, but I'm going to have to pay taxes on that. So I love the certainty of the Roth IRA. Sometimes it makes more sense, save on taxes, put it into the traditional IRA. But I love the certainty of knowing, hey, I could afford to pay the taxes. I paid them. I'm done. That money, everything I pull out is now mine. So that is the big difference between the different IRA accounts. We talked about building your timeline. Here's your starting point. Here's your ending point. Okay, so let's start with the only numbers we know. Well, you know your current age. What's your age today? And this, again, all pertains to the United States. So if you're in another country, you've got some different numbers to look for. What does your timeline look like you have today? Now, there is an age where you can withdraw the individual retirement account monies. And again, we'll get into this just a little bit, but uh, your company retirement, you have to look to see what their requirements are. Can you withdraw those from 59 when you're 59 and a half? You maybe can, maybe can't, but I always recommend transferring it into your own IRA. You should be able to do that absolutely at 59 and a half years old. Okay, but 59 and a half, government says that's when we can start taking out our retirement funds from our IRAs. Social Security is the other big pot of money, and if you were born 1960 or later, which is going to be, I think, all of us here, your full retirement age is 67. So let's go and unearth those numbers in a little bit more, okay? A little bit more specific. Your retirement, when you're older, you got your IRA, you have your Social Security. Different rules. So both your Roth and your traditional IRA, and this is where we get into, oh God, Brenda, this is now, we've got different scenarios. But big number to know, 59 and a half. At that age, you can withdraw your money, no penalties. There is a caveat with the Roth that you will have had to have that account opened at least 5 years. So at age 54 and a half, you've got to have that Roth IRA opened to get funds out at 59 and a half. If you need the money, if there's some type of a hardship, some type of medical expenses, even the purchase of your first home up to 10,000, you can get money out of that, out of the Roth fund, out of both funds, I believe, without penalty. But 59 and a half, that sort of gives you a sense of what that number looks like in terms of your IRA. Now, I just talked about the Roth versus the traditional. If you are leaving your workforce early, that Roth IRA has a huge advantage. So we just talked about the fact that you pay taxes on what you contributed, right? So if you put in $6,000, you've already paid taxes on it. You have access to that $6,000. That's yours. So, leave the account sit there for 5 years. You can start withdrawing the money that you contributed. You cannot draw out on the earnings. There you're probably going to have to pay a penalty. But all of the money that you put into, now, one of the things I did is I had a Roth 403b option at work. I could put in $25,000 a year, whatever the max was, into that Roth IRA. So when my career ended, I had access. I rolled it over into an IRA. I could access my personal IRA. I could access everything I contributed. So a huge, huge advantage. So you can't do that with a regular traditional IRA. So everything you put into a Roth IRA, you can get out. Just wait those 5 years from the time you've opened that account, you can get out your contribution. So that is huge. Now your $6,000 will probably grow into $12,000, $20,000. Just you can take the $6,000 out, not the earnings. Okay, so that is a huge advantage if you're leaving the workforce early. If you would like the details and you really digging into these facts, there are ways to access your retirement funds early. The best article that I know of comes from the Mad Fientist, FI, Financial Independence. Cute, right? So this is the link to the web page. You're going to have this PDF download. Go to the link. It's got these great graphs. Talks about Roth conversion ladder. It's great information, but again, it's for those of you really want to figure out that structural piece of how to take a traditional and how to access that. So talk about complicating things, that will do it for you. So we just talked about that 59 and a half number, right? Great. 59 and a half, all sorts of magic happens. I can make it happen earlier, but most people, let's talk about 59 and a half. Social Security, different animal. Where's the 59 and a half? It doesn't exist. Okay, Social Security, here are their numbers. You can begin withdrawing Social Security at the age of 62, but you're going to get dinged. Your benefit's going to be reduced by 30%. Now, unless you were born before 1960, which again, most of us, you're probably not on this workshop. But the full retirement age for those born 1960 and later is 67. We grew up, it used to be 65. Now it's 67. Age 70, the amount actually increases. If you delay taking benefits until age 70, you'll get more. So those are the Social Security numbers. That's where that comes from. Boom. All right, slow down, take a deep breath. Gave you lots of information. I know it. So this goes back to that timeline. This is where these numbers are coming from. You have today, you have, one marker is age 59 and a half, and another marker, I'm just going to use the age 67 full retirement age. Those two markers at the end give you an idea of when you can begin to take out accounts. So that means, what do we do with that big question mark in the middle? How do I live if I leave work in 10 years and I still have 15 more years before I hit 59 and a half? What am I doing during that time? How am I making any money? How am I surviving? Can I build financial independence before then? Can I afford to ever leave work? Big question, right? This is sort of the time where you're going to open up your imagination. I'm going to give you resources to run the numbers. I want you to think about the ideal world, your ideal world. Okay. Nobody can tell you what is old age for you. Nobody can tell you if you're going to start withdrawing your funds at age 65 versus 59 and a half. Okay. This is your timeline. Think about those early years in particular as to what you want out of them. What do you want out of your 30s, your 40s, and your 50s? What do you want out of that time period? Okay? I know. Lots to think about. I know. Let's give you some examples. This is going to, I hope, help you get out of everything we've been taught about is you got to work for 30, 40 years and then I can retire. Let's get out of that. Talk about Ginny. She is 35 years old. Her first phase is the phase she's in now. She is working, so she intends to work for the next 12 years. Her milestone is when the kids leave for college or when the kids leave the house. She is saving and investing, and when she hits that milestone, she's going to enter phase 2. Phase 2, she's going to downsize. So let's say she's got her house paid off, going to be a fair amount of money when she sells that house. She's going to get a downsize to a condo, take that house money, continue investing it. If her investments allow, she's going to continue work for the benefits, but she's going to try to cut her hours. That's her ideal scenario. Phase 3, she'd love to stop working, ideally in 17 years at the age of 52. Now, all of these things can change, and they will change. And, maybe Ginny needs more money and is going to work longer. Maybe Ginny decides, hey, trade in the house and go RVing. Whatever Ginny decides, this gives her a framework. This is where her head is right now. So we can begin to put the timeline together. And this is what I'm going to ask you to do. So, hey, you didn't get out your piece of paper and a pen? You've been to my workshops before. Get the piece of paper and the pen out, the pencil. Start drawing. So for Ginny's phased exit from the workplace, it sort of looks like this. She's going to work full time until she's about 47. The key event is the kids are independent. The kids are out of my house. I'm not supporting them anymore. Age 48 to 52, she wants to continue working. She's going to get the benefits, but she wants to just work part-time. She's going to sell her house, move into a condo, really cut her expenses during this phase of her life. Then, ideally, she's going to quit work when she's 52, quit the traditional workforce. And I can hear this in the back of your mind. What about my health insurance? Something that deserves a workshop all to itself is health insurance in the United States. But she's got access to a health savings account that's going to help her pay health insurance premiums during those years. That's another workshop too, isn't it? Absolutely. So, and then she's going to start withdrawing the traditional 401k, age 60. Ideally, she's converting it to an IRA. And then she's going to try to hold off on Social Security until she's 70. She's also at that point going to tap into the Roth IRA. Okay, I mentioned, why am I splitting it up between the traditional and the Roth here? I'm going to share my early retirement, my FI strategy, okay? Because it's looks a little bit like this. So, I sold my house. I bought an RV. I'm living off the proceeds. I'm also bringing in new income from this business. And I have two pots of money, an IRA and my Roth IRA. I'm actually holding off on withdrawing the Roth IRA until I'm much older. Why? Because it continues to grow and grow and grow. It gets more time to grow more. And remember, I'm not going to pay taxes on that. I am paying taxes on the traditional. So if I pull out that earlier when it doesn't have as much time to grow, I'm going to pay less taxes on my traditional. Follow that? So Ginny is doing something similar to that. That is her ideal time frame. Okay. Again, we've got all this information in Gutsy Women Finances. If you can't find something or you've got a question, ask me. I'm going to send you to the information. There's also a PDF here that you can fill out thinking about your personal timeline. This is all really about leaving the workforce early, but what happens if your job ends? I don't want to forget that because my career ended. I'd always planned on leaving early, but not as early as I left. So you just don't know what's going to happen to your career. Let's take another example. Belinda is a go-getter. She's only 30 years old. Her first goal is to really cut down on her expenses. She's working full time. She's cutting expenses. Really, really smart with a housing arbitrage, house hacking. So she bought a duplex. She lives in one unit and she rents out the other one, and that rental income pays for her mortgage. Cool, huh? She's got no housing expenses. Very, very smart. And, she is into the whole real estate thing. So her phase 2 is to begin to invest in rental properties. So she's working. She's got no mortgage because it's paid by her renters. So her expenses are way down. She's going to invest in some additional properties. Eventually, she wants her rental income to pay all of her expenses. Okay. Her phase 3, can you believe it? It's okay to push the envelope. It's okay to have wild dreams because she wants to quit her work at age 38. She's going to have enough money to live off of her rental income. Later on, she's going to probably sell some properties, diversify her portfolio, raise travel funds. Now, while she's working, she can load up. It's called front loading your retirement. She could max out her retirement because she's got low expenses. If she's got a decent income, she's got it all going for her. She could do this. So this is what her timeline looks like. Okay, she's working full time. She's investing in rental properties. that's what sort of pushes her to age 38, living off of that rental property income. Maybe key events is to sell some properties, invest it elsewhere, go do some traveling. I have a feeling someone like Belinda, who's a go-getter at the age of 30, probably was a go-getter at the age of 12, is going to be just fine. And then maybe when she's 60, she'll start withdrawing her 401k. And again, like Ginny and like me, I've put the Roth IRA as something you're withdrawing much later in life because it's growing, 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 no taxes. All right. That gives you an idea. Two examples of women who are really pushing the envelope. And the younger you are, the more opportunity you have to push the envelope. Now, if you're coming here and you're 50 years old, hey, 50 is 50. That's a great place to be. But your timeline is much smaller. So you might not have all these different events in there. If you're 30, if you're 40, you've got quite a ways to go before you hit, let's say, that 59 and a half marker. Open your dreams, bring out some ideas, sketch a couple of different plans. Do you want an income stream, or maybe you can just live off of your investments? There are so many what ifs. What if inflation goes up to 10%? Hello, yeah, we're living there. What if, the stock market's been crashing? I lose my investments. Hello, we're there. There are all these what ifs. If you live your life by what ifs, you don't live your life. Honestly, when you get there, you're going to figure things out. So, things crash. If you save up enough money so you don't have to pull out your money at a time when the market is down, it will come back. Have multiple streams of income so that everything is not dependent on one thing, like a paycheck or, the rental properties. You could have issues there, right? But if you keep playing this what if game, you're going to be working until you're in your 70s. And you're not in this workshop to do that. So sketch out a couple of plans. There's a best case scenario out there. You might beat the best case scenario. You have the best case scenario now. You don't hit it, you're going to be close. You're going to have a damn good scenario. So just do it. Okay. I didn't even talk about how much money you have and how much money you need. Go back to the last workshop on the FIRE movement, and that I'm including some of that information here, but just a quick sketch. This is that powerful chart. If you can save half of your income, save and invest, you got less than 17 years in the workforce. Okay, and that's without other income streams. And again, this PDF is downloadable. Click on Zach's updated chart. It'll show you, here's my income, here's my savings, here's how many years I would have to work. The other resource that I use all the time is just to run the numbers. So I use this. It's American Century Investments. I've been using it for decades, honestly. It's a time value calculation. You can plug in your numbers to see what you've got when you've got it. But this workshop is about building that big picture, building your timeline. You want to get into the numbers. Here are the resources. You can play with the numbers for all week long. I warned you at the beginning, this was a lot of information to take in. Another deep breath, relax. You've got this. Don't worry so much about the details. I can help you with all of those details. Just know the big picture, know the scheme, know that it is possible, know that you can do it. Relax. Okay. Oh, wow. Okay, this was the last workshop of the summer. Summer has disappeared. So I've got all this cool stuff lined up in September. September is Side Hustle Month in our Gutsy Women Finances community. I know you're excited about it. I'm excited about it. Next workshop, we're going to talk about how to research and invest in a side hustle. Make sure that you sign up for it. Can't wait to see you in the workshop. And again, all of this information that I've given you, it's laid out in a much more structured way in Financial Freedom Academy in that course. So welcome you to check that out and take your time, pause, just know that you can do this. That was a great workshop, guys. Okay, join me live so you can ask all the questions that you want. We can work on your timeline individually. See you in September. You guys take care now. Bye-bye.